What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? And welcome back to TD Phins Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. We are live on this amazing Thursday night, coming up on the 7:45 p.m. hour on Eastern Standard Time. This is Thursday. TD Phins Talk Thursday night details with DWYANNE Wood, the guru himself. That's what I like to call him, the guru, because one thing I can tell you about DWYANNE, guys, he definitely knows his stuff. And I ain't even gonna waste no time. What's up, DWYANNE?
What's going on, TD? What's going on?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. I was talking to you earlier, and you were telling me about some of the things you were gonna bring to the show tonight, and I got really excited about it, man. And I can't wait to share it with everyone. Before we get started, we're gonna hold on for a few minutes because we want to make sure that YouTube is sending everybody the notifications. And just so y'all know, me and DWYANNE were backstage. We were just about to go live, and all of a sudden YouTube crashed. So we saw EM's content said TD always late, and then it crashed. Man. So we're gonna give some time, see if the notifications are sent out. I don't think they're sent out. Even though we have almost 60 people in the room, please, guys, hit that like button so YouTube can hurry up and tell people we're live. It's actually a good opportunity since everybody went down. So if you hit that like button now, it's going to tell a lot of new people about this channel. So punch that like button, guys. Man, I see everybody in the comment section. Some of y'all were waiting for quite some time. No, your internet is not broken. It was just strictly YouTube, okay? It was YouTube. They actually went down. You did not have a glitch. You did not have an issue. YouTube went down on every channel. All the content was gone. But they've got it back up and running, just so you know. So talk to us, DWYANNE. What's the business, man?
Man, well, first of all, I want to say welcome to all the Fin family. All right, woo! We're gonna continue to stay hyped for our team because our team is on a path for glory this year. On a path for glory. All right, and what I'd like to talk about today or this evening is some of the nuggets, some of the details that we missed out on with respect to UDFA signings, because everybody wants to get into the glitz and glitter of the skill positions. But as we all know, it all starts in the trenches. So
yes, sir.
When you talk about the trenches, there are some intriguing UDFAs that I would like to talk about, as well as thank you Sharif, and thank you Richard for that confirmation of what I'm saying. But there are some very intriguing players that can bring fruit to the Miami Dolphins, maybe possibly this year, if not in the very near future, next year. So we're going to go through that. And if time permits, we're also going to talk about some of the things that those players are going to be utilizing to get success, such as their assignments. And we're going to go over some of those assignments and give y'all some details into that, so that way when broadcasters are talking about certain techniques and certain gaps, you understand it, as well as when you see scouting reports and you see people talking about, oh, well, he's a 3 technique, he's a 4 technique, he's a gap. You're going to understand a little bit more what that entails. So that's what's on the hoof today or tonight. And as soon as we get a few more people in, we'll get started into that.
Yes, sir. So we're about to get started, guys. We got over 80 in the room. We're coming up close to 100. I'm pretty sure that'll happen really quick. We're at 83 now. But like you said, we're going to be talking about the meat and potatoes, guys. We're going to be talking about the trenches, the guys that many of you don't even know about. See, we talk about the people who got drafted, who we got in free agency, but it's time for us to know a little bit more about the undrafted free agents. Do we have another player like Preston Williams? Do we have a Mark Walton without the drama? Do we have any of those guys that can actually make this team or the practice squad and eventually become the future. We're going to talk about that because let me tell you why. The Miami Dolphins won in UDFAs as well. We need y'all to understand that. The Miami Dolphins UDFA signing, undrafted free agent signings, they're all winners. They're all pluses to this roster. And it's time for us to learn who they are so we're not surprised if one of them make the 53.
And guess what? If even one of those UDFAs make it, that enables Greer to spend a little more on somebody that's a free agent or put a little bit more money aside to re-sign somebody that we want to keep to ensure our future success. And by signing that UDFA and that UDFA gets to be on the 55 man roster, that's more money available for those situations. Absolutely, so it's very important that we find the talent, and you'll see that the talent scouts of the Miami Dolphins not only have been beating the bush in the small areas, small schools, but also getting gems from Big Five conferences, players that you don't think about because they're not the stars, the glamours of the stars, the divas, but they're the reason why those divas are successful. And we're going to get into that as well.
Nice,
and before, and you know what? I just want to say one thing.
Good.
Tua should not start. I know we talked about UDFAs. Tua should not start. Dan Marino didn't start game one. Tua shouldn't start game one. Okay. You set the quarterback up for failure if you put him in the pressure cooker day one.
Unless he can handle it. Unless he can handle it.
Even if he could handle it, doesn't mean that you have to handle it. Let him mature. Let him grow. Let him get his feet wet. Let him get some of those roots deeper into the soil of success before you throw him into the wind of travesty.
But Dwayne, they said Tua is the next coming of Montana, man. I mean, he got to be better than Dak Prescott coming in as a rookie, right?
Montana didn't start his first year.
Dak Prescott
started.
Dak Prescott?
There was no pressure on Dak Prescott because he was a fourth round draft pick.
Ain't no pressure on Tua.
Oh, there would be pressure on him. There would be pressure on him.
It ain't no pressure. Ain't no pressure on Tua.
There would be some pressure on him. Okay.
You know why it's gonna be pressure? Because they build him up so high. Okay. They build him up so high. Now, did they build him up too high? Or is it not justified?
It's justified, but
then where's the
by
pressure?
the same token, you talking about you want to have the long-term return on investment. You don't want to have it where you stunt the person's growth. Okay. And like I said, even in this franchise, just looking at this franchise, the great one, Dan Marino, did not start his first game. Bob Greasy didn't start his first game out the box either. Okay.
Yeah, but they told us he's the truth, man. Tell him, Louisiana Tukey. They said he the truth. He the truth. This is what everybody was telling us. See, before all of this, we said would Tua be a day one starter in the NFL? Absolutely. Ain't no question. He's the best one. Now we done got him. It's, take your time. I don't get nervous now.
No, it's not a matter about being nervous. It's more a matter of being wise. Being wise. Allowing that gentleman to, and when I say that, I'm talking about Tua, allowing Tua to get comfortable, get into a situation where he's learning or learned.
Learning? He learns an NFL playbook in 24 hours.
Well, you know what? there are some tall tales, and that's probably one of them. Okay, if we weren't on the broadcast, I'd say some other things about that, but I'll say it as a tall tale. Okay, so he needs to sit for a minute or two and get his bearings, get everything in order, give the chance for Fitzpatrick to bring the team along. Worst case scenario, and this is the worst case scenario, he doesn't play this year and he plays next year, and at least he's starting out with a solid offensive line, skill positions, and new additions that can be incorporated into the offense.
Man, Dwayne, if he played next year, if we waited till next year, they still gonna make excuses. Yeah, the team is one of the best in the league, but the kicker ain't playing great, so you can't throw him in there yet. The punter ain't punting good. You know, the long snapper ain't. Man, let's go, Dwayne. You ready to get into these UDFAs?
You know what? Yeah, let's get into the UDFAs. Okay. First one I want to talk to you about is someone who comes from a small school. So this is where the talent evaluators, the scouts, they come into play. Jonathan Hubbard, 6'5", 310 pounds, can play. He played left tackle at Northwestern State for the Demons, but he can play guard as well. This kid is a mauler. This kid finishes his blocks in ways that you say to yourself, I want that kid on my team. I want that kid in the street fight with me. I want that kid in the foxhole with me, because this guy goes out there with, I won't say evil intent, but physical intent. Physically wants to dominate you, okay? And he was the leader of that offensive line at Northwestern State. And he comes from, and well, I'll say it this way. Another Northwestern State player that all Dolphin fans should know, Mark Duper. He came from the same school, okay? And this kid, as I showed some of the videos to TD, he finishes his blocks the way you want an offensive lineman to finish it, with no doubt as to whether or not that defensive player is going to be able to get back into the play. He finishes his blocks.
A true mauler.
A true mauler. And if you watch him, look at this play here. Look at him. He doesn't relent. He is relentless on his blocks. Okay. And this kid, he was able to call out assignments to the quarterback as the offensive tackle because he took on that leadership for the offensive line. So the young man is very knowledgeable of the game,
for one,
athletic, and is also, with his media savvy, he would be a attribute to the team, because you wouldn't have to worry about him saying any bad or negative comments that would rile up the defense that they're facing or embarrass the Dolphins. So you take a look at it from a character aspect. He checks the block. From a physicality aspect, he checks the block. Leadership, he checks the block. And then to be able to have the flexibility to play both tackle and guard, he checks the desired blocks for Flores' schemes, which means that which enables players to play multiple positions. Like I said, Jonathan Big Hub Hubbard, Northwestern State Demons, in a small little city in Louisiana, Natchez, Louisiana. He's from Kilgore, Texas, which is right outside of Tyler, Texas. There's a lot of talent coming from Eastern Texas into the NFL, and he's just another one that could possibly make our squad and our depth at offensive line much better.
One thing about Jonathan Hubbard that I love though, Dwayne, is he does something that many don't do. Okay, he finishes plays and he does it very, very aggressively, man. It's like when he takes you down on a block, he's going to keep you on the ground and make sure you can't get back into a play. This is one of those sleeper guys because he plays left tackle and can play guard as well. Now, when we look at that position, Dwayne, we feel like, oh, well, we just drafted our left tackle. Some people question whether he's going to be ready for day one in the NFL. Then you got Davenport. I am telling y'all now, watch out for this kid because this kid has the potential to beat Davenport out. He has that potential to beat Davenport out. Davenport is further into his time in this league and didn't produce the way that we love him to last year. Now he can get better, but at the same token, when you bring in a young guy like this and Jonathan Hubbard, 3'10", 6'5", it pushing you to the ground. This guy ain't just blocking you. He pushing you to the ground. I forgot what the stat was, but when I looked him up, he even had a stat for almost the most like takedowns.
Yep,
on the O-line. He
had 18 ground outs, they called it. 18 ground outs in one game where he put players on the ground. Okay.
In one game, wow.
In one game. And when you think about it with the mentality that he has, the physicality and his agility, he could possibly be challenging for Davenport's spot. That is what you want. You want everybody to feel pressure, and you want nobody to feel comfortable on that roster until the 55 is set. And even then, if this kid makes it to the practice squad, if somebody on the offensive line is not playing up to standard, hey, he could take somebody's spot. He could take somebody's spot.
I really do think that this kid has a chance. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people are talking about the tackles that we have. And one thing that they love about this kid is, once again, he doesn't just play tackle. He can also play guard. He plays multiple positions and did it well. That's why he was one of the first individuals. All right. He was one of the first individuals that they picked up as a UDFA because they knew his talent, and they probably sat back and said, this kid ain't gonna get drafted, and we know about him. So y'all look out for Jonathan Hubbard, guys. Could be a major part of the future. We're gonna keep our eyes on him. Shout out to Lieutenant Dan with the donation. Say, you don't buy a Lambo to put it in the garage for a year. Shaking my head. We need to take it to the freeway and see how fast it can go. So that means start to an ASAP. I'm gonna leave that one alone, man. Like I said,
everybody has their opinion, but guess what? The final say is gonna be Flores. Flores is gonna have the final say so. And
but
him and Gailey.
Hey, listen, man. They not treating Tua like a Lambo, man. What they really doing is treating him like a collectibles item, a collector's item, by trying to keep him on the shelf and be like, you just let him sit there and look pretty for 4 years, and then you re-sign him to sit there for another 4. We'll see, man. We shall see. All right. Who we got next, Dwayne?
We got Darnell Stanley. Okay, this kid played for the South Carolina Gamecocks. So he's played against superior competition in the SEC. So he's had battles with Raekwon Davis. He's had battles with Benito Jones and Josiah Cotney and all the other interior defensive linemen that the SEC has produced. And in those pairings, in more than 500 snaps. 500 snaps, pass blocking snaps. He allowed only 5 pressures. Didn't say sacks.
Hold on, say that
pressures.
again.
Okay.
Out of how many?
Out of over more than 500 pass blocking snaps. He only allowed 5 pressures. This kid is 6'3", 322 pounds. So he's built like a doggone refrigerator with arms. Okay, again, he has played both left guard, right guard, and center, majority of the time at center. But he did make a start at left guard in 2019. And this kid was a leader on the team as well. Again, you talk about the qualities that Flores and Greer are cultivating. They want players that can play multiple positions and have been leaders on their respective units, if not as team captains. Okay. So you're starting to see that he's getting those diamonds, whether or not they are first round draft picks or UDFAs. They want certain qualities, and those qualities are leadership and flexibility in the positional aspects of the game.
And somebody just said, "What's the catch?" What a lot of y'all have to realize with some of these UDFAs end up being some of the best players in the league. What you have to realize is, number one, some of them don't play at the biggest schools. Like take the SEC, for instance. If you're in the bottom 4 teams of the SEC, sometimes a lot of people don't even look at you, even though that is a tough conference. But everybody on the top 6 teams, they get drafted early. Not only that, we got a guy in Darnell Stanley who bounced around his college career. In 2019, he played 11 games at center and 1 at left guard. In 2018, started 13 games, first 12 at center and in the bowl game at right guard. But in 2017, he played 9 starts at left guard and 3 starts at right guard. This kid has bounced around, so that's another. See, that is a plus for a Flores type guy, but it's a negative for your draft stock because nobody ever solidified you as this is your position, and this is a guy who has 3 years of center, 3 years of left guard, 3 years of right guard, and he's ready for the NFL. They look at a guy like that and they don't put a lot of stock on him, but Flores knows this guy can play center, this guy can play left guard, this guy can play right guard. And he can do it very well. This is the type of guy I want in camp who's a perfect body build, got good eyes, got good hands, got good feet, and I'm about to put our coaching on it and see what we can turn this guy into. A versatile piece that I can interchange in a worst case scenario, depth on any position in the line.
Yeah.
Any position on the line.
And that's what you want to see in your players. You want to be able to mix and match those players depending on the situation, whether it's a situational occurrence or a necessity where somebody gets hurt. Let's say Eric Flowers pulls a hamstring or tweaks an ankle during the game. You could possibly put this guy in and not lose too much from that substitution. You want to be able to have that flexibility. And the fact that he has grown into his body. Okay. He came to South Carolina in 2014, graduated. He's been there for 6 years. So he has developed his body to the point where he's a man now. That body is not going to need as much strength and conditioning as somebody who is 20 years old or 21 years old. This kid is physically NFL ready. And when you think about it as far as who he's faced in his career, he has faced the best talent at the interior line position in the country on a consistent basis, when you playing the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Floridas, every week you playing somebody, the Ole Misses, the Mississippi States, you are playing somebody who is possibly going to be an NFL draft pick at some point in time, more than likely. So he has the pedigree to be able to face that pressure and succeed. Again, when I just go over the fact that, you know, in 500 snaps, you're talking only 5 pressures. That's less than 1% of the time that you give up a pressure. Didn't say a sack, a pressure. So
yeah, and I want to say one thing about that too. Let's revisit that. He played in the SEC. Let me say that again. He played in the SEC, and in over 500 pass blocking snaps, he gave up how many pressures?
5.
1%. 1%.
Since it's over 500, it's less than 1%, and that's NFL.
You're right.
That's NFL caliber. When you start talking about 0.8%, 0.5%.
In the SEC, I got to keep reminding people of that. In the SEC, where the competition is hard to find better.
Yep.
Only less than 1%, and this is what you call one of those gems that you find, one of those diamonds in the rough. And if we can make him listen, these are the guys that you have to watch out for, because they very well can be your future, and they can sneak right up into that lineup. This is the type of guy that your starting center gets nicked up, the coach throw him in there, and you don't even think about it, but the line looking good. And all of a sudden, 5 weeks later, we're like, you know who's been playing well? That kid. They start writing a little article of, hey, the coaches say they love this kid, and he's been playing well. These are those guys, and that's why we're talking about them, because we don't want you to be surprised when they come on the scene and they potentially take somebody's job or work their way into being a franchise type player.
And you think about it, Ted Karras is only signed for 1 year. Michael Dieter, he didn't show, he shows potential, but could he possibly be supplanted as the center with this guy? Possibly. Could it possibly be that he provides depth for Dieter when Karras leaves? Or does he provide backup potential for Karras if Karras is re-signed? There are so many different scenarios when you have good quality players. And that's the thing that Flores and Greer have been trying to do, trying to provide quality depth on the offensive line. That's why we went through so many different combinations last year. So many different offensive linemen started for the Dolphins last year, because they were trying to find that depth. And when they didn't find it through waiver wires, the end of the year, they decided, hey, we may need to go and get some in the draft, which they did identify in the draft at some positions. But then you wonder why they didn't pick a Tyler Biadasz or a Lloyd Cushenberry, because maybe the scouts were whispering in Greer and Flores' ear, hey, we found a player that can fit the mold of what you're looking for. So go ahead and draft some other positions, and maybe we can get lucky and sign this guy with as a UDFA, because we've been putting a bug in his ear about signing on as a UDFA if we don't draft him.
And let me tell you the advantage. Go ahead, Dwayne.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, TD.
Let me tell you the advantage a player like Darnell Stanley may have. See, when you come on, when you're making that 55-man roster and you're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to win the backup position on the O-line, you might have, you know how I always use the scale of 1 to 10 with players.
Yep.
You might have a really good guard that's like a 7.5 that could be a 7.5 backup at guard. But a Darnell Stanley can be a 7 at guard, a 7 at center, basically a 7 at left guard, 7 at right guard, and a 7 at center. Who you think they're gonna select to be the backup? The one guy who's the most flexible person. Exactly, because when you talk about injuries on the O-line, you can't fill in that guard at center. You can't fill in that right guard at left guard and think it's just gonna work like clockwork. Darnell Stanley is that perfect fit to where you can fit him in to cover multiple positions. But that goes back to the first gentleman that we were talking about in Big Hubbard, playing left tackle and right guard. The same thing. That's the typical guy they want, who can play multiple positions and have experience doing it. So y'all just keep y'all eyes on these two.
Hey, Billy Four, I know that the offensive line has been bad for like 8 years, but guess what? The line is getting a infusion of talent, and this is the way that it gets infused with talent, through the draft, through free agency, and through UDFAs. So you try to find talent whichever way you can. Find that talent that meets your needs and also the salary cap needs as well. Because think about it. If this guy, Stanley, if he was to make it, let's just put everything out. Let's say that he was the starting center. If he's the starting center and he doesn't have to even make the Pro Bowl. If he just has a quality season, do you know what the benefit of that pick does for the team? I mean, you think about the salary cap implications, the ability to be able to go get different players at another position and pay them, as well as provide motivation, direction, and purpose for other players to see that, hey, hard work and stick-to-itiveness and desire means something on the Miami Dolphins.
If UDAs didn't teach you something last year, then you weren't watching Miami Dolphin football. If UDFAs didn't teach you something last year, I don't know what will, man.
I mean, when you think about the success that the UDFAs had with Nick Needham, with Preston Williams, I mean, those two right there show you that the talent scouts are doing their job to provide talent, and all you need is one or two of those every year to hit. And it saves you so much in salary cap.
One or two.
And it does keep other guys on their toes, because guess what? They know that it doesn't have to take somebody to be drafted. They could get somebody to present a challenge or a threat to their position. So they need to stay on their toes.
Man, this is beautiful. Who else we got, man?
Well, we have Benito Jones. We're going to go on the defensive side of the ball for a moment. And I know EM and Reason and Mr. Ballgame have talked about the need to strengthen the defensive line trench. And guess what? The Miami Dolphins have done that with Raekwon Davis, and they have done that with this signing as well with Benito Jones, because this guy was projected to be at worst a 6th-round draft choice, and for him to be to fall to be an undrafted free agent, that is a coup as far as talent is concerned. Acquiring that talent, this gentleman in his 4-year career at Ole Miss, he accomplished or he had 132 tackles, but 31 of those were tackles for loss as well.
Wow.
31 of those, so a quarter of those tackles, a little less than a quarter of those tackles that he accomplished were for loss. So that is a good ratio to have. Very good ratio to have.
Sack numbers for a tackle, 5.5 in the senior year.
Yeah, and you notice that he increased his sack total from his sophomore year to his junior year, and from his junior year to his senior year. So you want to see that development and that growth over a career.
And he got a pick last year.
Yeah. So he's nimble. He's nimble on his feet, and when you think about the ability to play the A gap, he can do that. So he's a ideal 0-1 technique, and we'll get into that a little later, discussing that. He brings the ability to plug up the offensive line. Ooh, excuse me. And when you think about the fact that he's played in the SEC, again, you're getting quality players from the best conferences. SEC, we got UDFAs from the Pac-12. We got UDFAs from small schools. We got UDFAs from the Big 12. No, I don't think he fell because of his size. He fell because of the fact that he wasn't a 3-down player. Not that his size, because his size actually is ideal for a nose tackle at 315, 316 pounds. So he is ideal. He can play the nose in the run game, and he's probably more of a 1 gap. So he might be more of a 1 technique than a 0 technique. But again, that is scheme specific, and that is again what Flores wants. He wants players that can play multiple schemes. This guy can play the 0 and the 1 technique and do it well for a first down or second down defensive tackle, nose tackle. You know,
and I want to repeat that what Dwayne said. Make sure people didn't glance over it, because a lot of people, they just look at the surface. Oh, well, he's still undrafted. Why did he fall? Even though he was projected around the 5th, 6th round. And again, nose tackles, depending on the team, a lot of them, they're not every down guys. They're guys like this, like a lot of the guys that's play nose tackle is a position typically to stop the run. And most defenses, that's what they utilize them for. There's only a handful of nose tackles that you want to be multiple down guys. So this guy is a specialist and a very good one. Listen, I'm not the only one who's brought him up. I actually haven't brought him up much. But like Dwayne said, ball game reason, EM, they've mentioned him before the draft many times as an opportunity to get this guy. And we didn't even have to draft him, as a lot of us were saying. Well, we can get Benito Jones in the later rounds. We got him as a UDFA. So it was obvious that this was a guy they wanted, because as soon as the draft was over, another guy that we went out and made sure that we snagged.
And what you don't realize is that, I mean, as soon as pick number is, as soon as Mr. what's the term? The draft, the last person who's drafted.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant. As soon as Mr. Irrelevant is drafted, those phones are lighting up.
Yep.
And they're taking multiple offers.
Yep. These kids got options.
Yeah, they have options, and they get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different teams, and they choose which team they feel as though they have the best opportunity to get some playing time and to stick. And Benito Jones saw that, in his opinion, and him and his agent, that the best opportunity for him to get some playing time was with the Miami Dolphins. Mm-hmm. That goes to both the finish that the Dolphins had in 2019 and the conversations that Flores and Greer had with him leading up to the draft.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they are telling every player that comes to Miami, if you playing the best football, you're starting.
Yep.
If you're playing the best football, I don't care if that guy over there makes 16 million and you make 700,000. If you playing better than him, I'm playing you. And that's the message he's been given for 365 days. And it's been proven with some of the decisions that he's made.
Yep. Avery Moss, Devon Gottschall, you're on notice. You're on notice. You're on notice. You need to get that motor into fourth and fifth gear. Okay, because this guy brings size and agility to that position. Okay, he can push through gaps and has success destroying steep angles. So he can be a force at the point of attack on first and second down.
Wow. He's those type of guys, man. Y'all got to look out for. Hopefully we educating on y'all on some of the guys that a lot of people don't even know who's on the roster right now, and know that they will be showing up in camp ready, guys. They will be, man. Let me put this comment up. It said, I think Dwayne is very right there. Players are on notice. Get the bus tickets together, D-Wood.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna use EM's moniker. Some people are gonna be receiving EM's bus ticket either on the Greyhound or the Continental Trailways. Yep, that bus is getting full. Some people are going to be leaving Miami, and it's some players that you may have grown akin to, but because of a lack of growth, and not physically, but a lack of growth and being able to accomplish what's been required of the scheme that the Dolphins are wanting to put into effect, and also showing it on the stat line, and that they have not produced, some players are going to get that bus ticket. Some players, okay? It may be one in with the defensive line. It may be Avery Moss or Devon Gottschall, because their contracts are contracts that won't cause a lot of pain if Greer and Flores decide to move on from them. Okay. Plus the fact that you're saving so much money with the UDFA, that short-term hit of $1 million or $750,000 you gain with having a player like Benito Jones, like Jonathan Hubbard, like Darnell Stanley in your program, because you have them for 3-4 years at a certain price. Now, if they were to ball out to the point where, they're getting Pro Bowl selections or alternate Pro Bowl selections, then it might be wise to sign them to a contract sooner rather than later. And I'm sure Greer and Flores would have the wisdom to do that. But in the short term, you're talking about putting that pressure, putting that heat, putting those feet to the fire for somebody on the roster. And at worst, you have somebody on the practice squad who can be called upon to perform a certain scheme in a certain situation for the Miami Dolphins, because they have the playbook at all times.
Man, let me say this, all right? I want to break something down for people, man, because Dwayne, you get me hyped. Let me break something down for some of y'all, all right? Just because we signed you in free agency, just because we drafted you, if one of these guys come up and they're playing better than you in camp and showing a higher upside, do not sit here and think that nobody's off limits from getting traded. Just like the fire sale last year and the year before. A guy that we just signed in free agency can be traded in camp if a UDFA is coming in showing that they're playing just as well. And to me, it could be a gamble, but there are guys that are on this team that we all feel like will be on this team could be getting their bus ticket as well if certain guys come into camp balling out. So keep your eyes open. Don't be surprised, because any team in their right mind would get rid of a $10 million salary if a guy making $700,000 playing just as well and younger.
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
Or just the fact, even if he's not released, his snaps, the amount of snaps that he was going to get may be decreased, and therefore he doesn't make that incentive clause in that contract. So there's a lot of things that could happen.
Probably going to ask to be traded anyway when that happens. See, that's the thing that a Flores system creates as well. Mika should tell y'all all you need to know about that. Taco Charlton should tell you that too after the recent revelation of what he said. Because if a guy's playing great and we still keep that starter on the team, Flores is going to give that other guy some snaps. Even if he doesn't start, he's going to get some of your starting snaps, which you may not make the incentives in your contract at that rate. Then they're going to be upset and they're going to want to be traded. So those things do happen. So I'm telling y'all, that's the situation. We have like a luxury that can be tough as well. Keep your eyes open, but I love it. It's nothing better than this.
And just to call out one of the comments, Mr. Miami 305, Michael Roberts, I'd be more likely to see Durham Smythe getting on that bus than Michael Roberts, because Smythe's blocking was abysmal last year, which caused a lot of problems for the running backs. And it doesn't matter whether it was Laird, Walton, Gaskin, Balaj. Durham Smythe's lack of effective blocking on the 7 technique, on the defensive end and or outside linebacker, strong side outside linebacker, was a detriment to the Miami Dolphin running game. He's got to play much better.
Man. So are we good on Jones?
Yes, we're good on Mr. Jones, on Benito. This gentleman here, Nick Caltmeyer, 6'8".
Jeez.
So that's a tall drink of water. Okay. Tall drink of water. 34 and a quarter inch arm length. So he has the arm length required to be a tackle. Now, Mr. Caltmeyer, he's smart. He majored in electrical engineering. So it's not going to be a challenge for him to get used to the playbook. His biggest challenge is going to be building up the strength. Okay, building up the strength. And I see him more as a practice squad player. But again, if he's on the practice squad, somebody else isn't. So all of those players, the Ricardo Lewises, the Mac Hollins, they got to be they got to step their game up, because those players that were living good on the practice squad last year may not be there this year. So this gentleman here, like I said, he can play right tackle. I'm not sure if he has the strength and quickness at this point in time to play the left tackle position, where he would face the jack or the pass rushing specialist on an NFL defense. But at the same point in time, he has the physical tools and the mental tools to be a successful project in the NFL. And as a UDFA, that is the what I would feel as though is the minimum standard for what you want in a UDFA. Somebody who you could stash on the roster for a year or 2 years, see how they develop, and then make a decision on that player next year based on how well he developed. So you're not losing out on anything by making this selection. And you could get a diamond in the rough, because a diamond is just a piece of coal that develops into a diamond with two things: pressure and time. And the pressure is coming every day to practice and having to deal with the Benito Joneses, the Raekwon Davises, the Christian Wilkins every day, the Ogbas, the Shaq Lawsons, the Van Ginkels, the Van Noys, every single day on the scout team and or in drills, where he can be put to the pressure, and then time will tell whether or not this gentleman can make a career with the Dolphins. But
yes,
he's definitely got the smarts. He definitely has the smarts, and he has the physical tools to do it. I'm rooting for him. And hey, if at worst he could be a swing offensive tackle position, in 2 years, where he could fill that role, and again, lessen the salary cap, but increase the flexibility and the skill set of the offensive line, that's a plus.
Yes, sir. Now, Nick Caltmeyer, right tackle, 6'8" is what stands out to everybody. I mean, that's just tall frame, 34 1/4 arm length. It's just he's a specimen. Okay. Yes, and when you look at his flaws, they obviously looked at him and said, we got to bring this kid in, even if we want to put him on the practice squad, because I think they personally feel like this is the prototypical guy that has the length on the edge that if we can mold him into something, it may not be right away. It may not be this year, it may not be next year, but this is a guy that everybody might look up and could be a good player in this league in a few years. And even if that's as a really good depth piece at the tackle position. So, like it says developmental project, you need these, because you don't pass up on 6'8", 34 1/4 arm length.
Let me tell you something. Let's say we're in a situation, he's on the team at this second. This is 2 years down the line, and it's fourth and 1 on the 12-yard line, and you want a first down. You want to run the clock out. You put this guy in as a third tight end, or Jonathan Hubbard as a third tight end. Man, now you got the power to be able to run that ball effectively, and that one play could mean the difference between going to the AFC Championship game or going home and losing in the divisional playoff round. So you don't want to sleep on the impact that a player like this can have on your formation packages, because let's say you don't get the blocking that you need from a Durham Smythe. Maybe you keep an extra left tackle to be able to provide that blocking. So the flexibility and the scenarios that he could fit into are plentiful. Nice. We can move on to Ray Lima. Mr. Lima played at Iowa State, and again, you're talking about a Big 5 conference where he played, where he cut his teeth, and he thrived. 6'3", 302 pounds, extremely powerful player who knows how to use proper leverage to dominate up front. Okay, he's always been able to keep his pads lower than the offensive lineman that he's facing, so he has been able to be successful as a 3 technique, a 1 technique, and a 0 technique. He's played defensive tackle and nose at Iowa State, and he's played on 5-man lines as well. So this is another project, UDFA, that if he develops, again, Devon Gottschall, see you. Avery Moss, see you. I'm tired of seeing the Dolphins come up last or next to last in against the rush. I'm tired of seeing 2nd and 2. I'm tired of seeing teams just basically run the ball down our throats on a consistent basis. Okay? So these are the things that Greer and Flores have identified as needs. So we missed out on Leke for 2. Okay? But we did get Raekwon Davis. We missed out on Devon Hamilton, but we did get Benito Jones. Okay, so this player here is in the same ilk as Benito Jones. He has played facing some of the better running backs and offensive rushing teams in the country. You know, when you facing the Wisconsins, the Ohio States, I'm sorry, I'm speaking the wrong the Big 12. When you're facing those running teams, those fast running backs in the Big 12, those running backs are more scat backs, but they also present a certain challenge to the defensive lineman with respect to stopping the run, as well as attacking during pass rushing situations. So you see this gentleman here, Mr. Lima, he has the ability and the athleticism to perform schemes, stunt schemes as well, and also has the ability to beat reach blocks because of his leverage and explosiveness. So this is somebody who Flores can build and mold to the type of defensive lineman that he wants to see. He can play the 0 technique. He can play the 4 technique, 4 inside, 4 eye. He can play the 3 technique as well. So that helps Christian Wilkins, because to have, just imagine you have Raekwon, Christian Wilkins, and Ray Lima on the offensive line. Three 300+ pound defensive linemen that can move and are physically able to dominate an offensive line. So this was another fine selection by Flores and Greer that fits in well with their scheme.
Now, I wanted to address this comment on the screen. Sometimes I really don't get football. What possible smarts do you need to be an O-lineman? Block the guy in front of you.
It's not just that. It's not just about that.
But Mike did start out by saying sometimes I really don't get football, so we're not gonna get on him because he did say he don't get football sometimes. Okay, so Michael, that's understandable now. With that comment, it's definitely understandable that sometimes Michael, you don't get it.
You have to have the smarts to when to perform certain types of blocks, reach blocks, cut blocks, scoop blocks, according to the play that's being called. You also have to be able to determine when and who you're supposed to double team. So it takes the ability to mentally focus on the task so that you can A, help out on your block, or B, help out on another block and then peel off of that block have the discipline to be able to keep your eyes on the second level as far as the linebackers are concerned, and know when to peel off of that initial block and go attack that linebacker.
Exactly. And he said, TD, I was being serious. I know you were being serious. That's why I reiterated that you said sometimes you don't understand football, because just block the guy in front of you. Let me give you an example. There's 5 guys on the offensive line: left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. On the defensive line, let's say you got 4 guys. What if all 4 guys line up over by the left tackle? Then that means the right tackle has no one in front of him to block. The right guard has no one in front of him to block. The center has no one in front of him to block. So somewhat the left guard has someone to block, and the left tackle has someone to block, but it'll be a sack every play just about coming from the left side. That's why you have to have your thinking cap on and know what the defensive line is lined up to do. Know your assignment. Obviously, there's going to be a shift called on that type of play where everybody's shifting left as soon as the ball is snapped, or it's going to be an audible running straight to the right, technically.
Yep. But, you got to know when to do a bucket step so that you can get out there to the edge to be able to make that block, and then call that out before the snap of the play to be able to make that call so that all 5 offensive linemen can change their assignment in sync with each other so that those 4 defensive linemen are blocked. Yeah. And you have the ability to peel off. Somebody has the ability to peel off and get the linebacker or linebackers. Okay.
Yeah, the guy in front of you might be coming at you and put his hands on you, and next thing you know, he leaves you alone and go around. Yep, you have to know that the protection is sliding mid-play, and you have to know that I'm not going to chase that guy. I'm going to pick up the guy that's shifting my way or looking for the guy. So it's actually a lot of real-time thinking, because you don't know what that D-line is going to do.
It's reactionary, but you also have to anticipate. You have to anticipate what's going on, but you also have to know what your responsibilities are and be able to determine whether or not you need to stick with your assignment or peel off in anticipation of a linebacker coming into a gap, or if the defensive line is running a stunt and you be able to realize that, be able to slide out and be able to pick up another person so that the person inside can pick up that stunt and call that out in a short span of time. That's why communication, both pre-snap and post-snap, with regards to the offensive line, is critical to the success of the skill positions. So let's say in that situation that TD was just talking about, Michael, if you had a shift where you had a four down lineman and 3 of them are shifted more towards the left side of the line, you're going to make those calls on the offensive line to pick those up and give people assignments. But then post snap, you need to have calls that enable you to call out the stunt and or be able to have the physical ability to get out there to pick up the stunt. And that takes smarts and physical ability to be able to do those things. So it's not just go out and hit the person in front of you, because even on a run play, your blocking assignment may not be the person in front of you. You may have to pull, or you may be performing a trap as well. So although the person is right in front of you, that's not your blocking. That's not your assignment for that play. So it does take a lot of mental aptitude to play offensive line.
And don't forget the most basic piece of it all. That those things can get complex in real time. But the most basic piece of it all that's tough for an offensive lineman that everybody glance over, just block the man in front of you. Block this massive guy who's coming full speed, cracking heads, trying to come at the quarterback who's built on power, who's just relentless, and you can't hold him. And you don't know which way he wants to go before the ball is hyped. Just the basic fundamentals of playing O-line ain't easy. That's why most things are 5 offensive linemen versus 3 or 4 defensive linemen. And you still have a hard time. Look at these teams that run a 3-4 and they only rush 3 and still get there sometimes. It's not easy, man. Just block the guy in front of you. Where the guy in front of me is stronger than me. He just because I may weigh a little more, but he benches more than me.
The offensive linemen are not. The offensive linemen are the least athletic persons on the line, on the field. They're the least athletic. So it takes some smarts and some communication to do that job. When you think about your defensive ends, they have the speed and power. Your defensive tackles have speed and power. The offensive linemen, they may have power. It's very rare that they have speed and power, because that's the reason why they're playing offensive line rather than defensive line, because they lack one of those two talents, speed and or power, on a level that would make them a defensive end or a defensive tackle.
And Mike said it's crazy. You don't notice all this just watching the game. Very detailed. Football is so intricate, but only to the people who really understand the game. And that's why we do Thursday Night Details with DWYANNE Wood, because trust me, DWYANNE understands the game. And I feel so confident for him to teach all of us so much about this game, because we're gonna in coming up shows on Thursday nights, we're gonna be talking about the A gap, B gap, C gap. We're gonna be talking about 0 technique, 1 technique, 2. We're gonna be talking about it all to help you get caught up on understanding the game. Let me tell you another thing about this game. When coaches watch the film, almost every single play in the game of football, just take the offense alone, almost every single play has more than 5 errors automatically. And when I say error, a coach can dissect film and say, look, the left tackle didn't get the inside leverage we needed on this play. Not effectively like we needed for this play to spring. The guard never made it to the second level. He only got one yard into that second level, and his assignment is to get 3 yards in. The center didn't move off of the snap fast enough to pull, or whatever it may be. The guard didn't pull and beat the linebacker to that hole. There's so many things that actually go wrong, even on successful plays. Even on successful plays. When you break down film, just because we broke one for 50, the coach is still coaching a player that didn't get leverage on that, but thank God the quarterback bailed us out by breaking that tackle. But we don't think about that in the game of football. We just look at, did it work or not?
The end result.
Yes. And this is why when people are arguing for a certain player, you're not really looking at the game of football. Just like whenever I break down Xavier Howard, amazing talent. But when I look at the film, there's things that I sit there and I say, it didn't matter on that play and nobody cares, but the coaches care. People care. So this game is so intricate, and that's why these players are getting evaluated. Trust me, in the NFL at the highest level, every play a player gets a grade on. You think they don't have report cards? You don't think that at the end of every week they get a bio saying this is how you graded out? This is what the scouting said on you. This is what the coach noticed. You tend to do this. You tend to do that.
And you notice that they get their grades in front of other players. So it's called out. Hey, you failed to put that reach block on that player, and that failure to block that player cost us this game. Or if it didn't allow this play to spring out, which then caused us to call this play, which ended up where we took more of a risk on a play that we didn't have to. if we had been successful and gotten 3 yards on a play. Now we're 2nd and 10. Now we've taken more of a risk, and now our tight end is hurt because he got hurt on a play that we wouldn't have called if we would have been successful on 1st down. So there are a lot of things that go on, and you think about those meetings that they have Monday or Tuesday when they're going over the film. They are dissecting each and every block, each and every run play, the plays that we think are so insignificant. They are watching everything and nitpicking whether you got leverage, whether you got off of the combo block in time to get to the 2nd level. Why didn't you get off that block? Why did you stay on that block? Why did you leave that block? Because if you were supposed to stay on that block a certain period of time, why didn't that block be successful? Why did you allow that nose tackle to overcome the both of y'all and break through and gap between the two of you and make a play to stop a run play? Those are all things that we think and say, oh well, they just go back to the huddle 2nd and 9.
Yes.
But when they get back to the film room, those things are called out, and those are the things that make players sit on the bench, or they don't get re-signed. They don't get that long-term contract. They get one of those prove-it contracts rather than that security of a longer-term contract, because you have proven or did not prove that you could be successful in our scheme that we want to run.
Well,
and that's just offensive line.
Man, we can talk. This subject can go on for years, man. Y'all don't understand how intricate the game is. And I love that Michael was honest with us on this, because he said most of us fans watch every Sunday for many years, but do not know all these details. Believe me, most fans don't. Trust me, I know we don't, because I didn't know all these details. You know how much studying I've done in the last 3 years alone to learn so much about this game, and still learning. When me and Dwayne have conversations, he opened my mind to think about this, and then I go look it up, and I'm like, man, that's what it's about, us really understanding the game, because that's why I don't like arguing with people that don't even know these aspects of the game, because it's like, why did we bench him? He was doing just fine on the O-line. But in practice, the position coach saying, yeah, you held the guy off long enough not to get to the quarterback and we scored a touchdown, but your leverage sucks on that. Your leverage sucks, and this guy over here is keeping great leverage. We're going to put him in. Yeah. I mean, it's bigger than that. All we pay attention to are the results. And I like one more thing that somebody else said too. And I'm sorry, Dwayne, I just need to go through this real quick.
No, go ahead.
I like something that somebody said too. Man, I had the comment up. I don't think I can go back and find it, but I gotta repeat that. He said that this is also how they evaluate the coaches.
Yeah, I saw that. I want to comment on that.
Let me tell y'all something about a real organization. Now, trust me when I tell you, there are some powder puff organizations that do not have a tangible system in place to evaluate coaches and players and general managers. But the best of the best organizations can evaluate everyone because they have tangible things that say you should be doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that. And if you're not doing them, we can show you on film that you're not. And the coaches, do you think these coaches just go out there and yell? I'm sure they have bios on players. They have to jot down their strengths, jot down their weaknesses. They have to report to the offensive O-line coach has to report to Chan Gailey and say, this player right here, I'm working on his strength. I'm working on his ability to hold leverage. I'm working on X, Y, and Z. And Chan Gailey said, what actions do you have in place to improve those? I'm working drills on this to improve that. I'm doing this on this to improve that. I'm testing him on assignments to do that. And then if the player is improving, you know the coaching is working. If the player isn't improving, what actions have you put in place? Because the things that you set forward aren't getting the job done. So we need to move results. Now, let me tell you one thing that coaches ask. Let me tell you what offensive coordinators ask their position coaches. The first thing they ask with every player that's struggling, number one, is it skill or is it will? Okay? Skill can be coached. Will cannot be coached. So when they say, talk to me about Taco Charlton, is it skill or will? It's will. All right, we'll take care of that. Oh, it's skill? Then it's your responsibility to take care of that. As the position coach, I need you to move this player, get him from A to B by this deadline, and that's on you. Because as long as it's not will, then we put all responsibility on you as the coach for you to figure out a way how to move results. That's the only thing matter in the coaching world, results. Move results. You got Benito. He was an undrafted player. How can we make him something? What does he need to do to improve? And what plan do you have in place that's going to improve that? And that goes all through the whole roster. I don't care if you're the best player on the roster. What are their weaknesses? Number one, how are we going to fix their weaknesses? Number two, how are we going to sustain their greatness? If that falls off, is it will or skill? Because I don't look like his will to me. This player has a great attitude. He's over there listening. Oh, it's skill? Then that's on you as the coach. So there's a lot of evaluations that go down, y'all. And I'm telling you now, who was the offensive coordinator last year?
Chad O'Shea.
And guess what? I bet you Chad O'Shea was up in that office talking about, well, it's not Will, but he's just not the guy. Let me tell you something that it doesn't exist in the NFL. He's just not the guy. Because if you're a great coach, you should be able to take a player and show improvement. Now, it may turn out to be not enough improvement to where we need to move forward with them, but if you're a great coach, you got to be able to improve anybody. Look at how many bums left the Miami Dolphins and end up going to other teams and being successful. How many people we say, oh, he was a bust, but all of a sudden he was successful. Oh, well, they were in a different system that fit them, TD. Well, that's the stuff that has to be communicated to the coach. Look at his attributes. Look at his strengths. They don't fit this type of system. All right, how can we turn him into somebody that fits this type of system? That's why I say when we talk about he doesn't fit the system, then what weaknesses does he have where he doesn't fix the system and we need to start working? And if we feel like it's going to be too much to change, then we'll make that decision later. But right now he's on the roster. We need a productive player, not somebody who we say he don't fit the system and we just throw him in the trash. That ain't how it worked. Taco Charlton came out and basically said it wasn't a system fit. Them letting me go and me, it was mutual. We both. I didn't feel like it was a system fit. But the reason why he was a late scratch in the season where they sat him because they were still going to play him is because he voiced his opinion in ways that they don't appreciate. So that's why he was a late scratch. Other than that, we still need to make this work. We still need to teach him how to become a system fit. So at the end of the day, it's all great to want that perfect system fit, but you don't always have that. You don't sit on your hands and say, we'll just lose this year until we can get somebody who's a system fit. You got to try to turn that guy into a system fit while at the same time utilizing great coaching to adjust your system a little to fit as well. So it's intricate, man. This game is so deep.
You know, Chad O'Shea, he was held accountable for the fact that he did not develop, and I know I'm going to call up a name, and some people are going to be like, oh, but he did not develop Rosen, and he did not develop a scheme in the running backs where they pass protected to the point where and the tight ends blocking wise to provide for the running and the pass protection for Fitz and Rosen to be more successful than what they were in the passing game. So the results of the season are the coaches held accountable and responsible some coaches are held responsible for certain things. Some coaches are held accountable for certain things. So that running backs coach or that quarterback coach, he's held responsible for developing a skill set out of a player. The person accountable is also held accountable for that coach making sure they implement the proper course of action for that development. When the coach that's responsible fails, he's responsible, but the coach who is accountable, he gets a hit, he gets a negative on his grade. And as we see, when too many negatives happen on your grade as the person accountable, you can lose your job as well, i.e. Chad O'Shea. I was surprised when he was released, fired. But when you think about what he was ultimately accountable for, he was accountable for providing a decent offensive line. He was accountable for providing an efficient running game. He was accountable for providing more blocking for the tight ends. Now, the position coaches that were responsible for those courses of action, those trainings, those management of the skill sets, they were let go as well. So accountability and responsibility works even in the film room for coaches, because Flores looks at the film and the results of the year, and he's making that evaluation as the year progresses. So he probably knew from the very beginning, or from week 5, week 6, that Chad O'Shea wasn't living up to what he was supposed to be accountable for. So therefore, the results and the people responsible, when they failed to improve on Rosen's ability, when they failed to improve the offensive line to a point where it didn't result in being 32nd in rushing, where it resulted in the quarterback being the leading rusher, those who were responsible and those who were accountable, film-wise, management-wise, they were ultimately let go. And that all comes from a buildup of film and notes for each week. As a coaching staff, as a player, the film doesn't lie. And I know I'm not talking about Rosen specifically. I'm just saying that Chad O'Shea failed to develop, failed Rosen. Now his QBR and all those other things led to him failing as well as drops and as well as other things. But Chad O'Shea was responsible for developing and cultivating that talent. That's one of the reasons why Chad O'Shea was let go.
And let me hurry up and elaborate on that, because I only got 4 minutes and we want to try to get through one more. Listen, Rosen ain't the only reason, okay? When you're the offensive coordinator, you carry the burden of everything, okay? That's why there were other position coaches that got let go as well, okay?
Yep.
So let's get that straight now. But when you look at O'Shea, you got 5 offensive linemen that you couldn't coach a offensive line coach to get the job done. Then you go and fire the current one, and I forgot what his name was. The other offensive line coach came in, Dave DeGuglielmo, and it still didn't make that much of a difference, even though over time it got decent enough, but we had to change the whole offense. That's all on O'Shea's resume. Too many fails. You can't get these running backs to move the ball. that's all on you. You're not moving these position coaches to move these players. Now, is it all on the position coaches in O'Shea? No. But when you have that many fails, and take Rosen, for instance, Rosen could have sucked. Flores said, I don't see any improvement. He's trash. He sucks, O'Shea. Yeah, he does, Flores. Yeah, but it's your job to at least get something. Even if at the end of you getting something, we decide he ain't the guy, which I think they did because they went and got Tua. But at the same token, you got to be able to get something. You got nothing. So that shows me you can't move results. If a player on the scale of 1 to 10 is playing like a 4 right now, at least give me a 5 and we still might move on, but at least I can see the tangible work you put in to make a difference. But I don't see where you're making a difference in this player, nor a lot of these offensive line players, nor Ryan Fitzpatrick early in the season. You ain't even making a difference in Ryan Fitzpatrick early in the season. He's looking terrible. I think that the O'Shea move on was decided early in the season, but they decided to play that out.
Oh yeah.
I think that was,
and that's the reason why they went to the shotgun offense, where he was always in the shotgun position, because that enabled them to have some success. But the fact that by that point in time there was not a development in Rosen, and Fitz had showed that he struggled as well. That was probably the point where Flores decided that he was going to let Chad O'Shea go, but he didn't want to do it during the season. And it probably was a fact that everybody misses the fact that who was supposed to be the offensive assistant coach? Wasn't Caldwell supposed to be there? Caldwell was supposed to be there. And that would have helped Chad O'Shea, and that may have prevented some of the things that we did endure those first 3-4 games. Just to have a steady hand, because Chad O'Shea was in new territory. And as a result of all of that, Chad O'Shea is not a receiver coach, I think, at Green Bay. And you see that he had to take a loss and a step back in his career from offensive coordinator back to a position coach, because he failed in his ability to be accountable and responsible for higher responsibilities.
Yes, man. Listen, man, we could go on and on and on about this, guys. This is what Thursday nights with Dwayne Wood, the details with Dwayne Wood, is about, guys. I feel real good that I'm reading comments of people learning. I feel real good that we're getting a better understanding and in-depth understanding of the game of football and how it relates to the Miami Dolphins and his team. And that's why I'm a huge fan of what we're doing here on Thursday nights. Again, Dwayne, thank you, man. What another amazing night breaking down the UDFAs and more about the game of football, man.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. I thank everybody for listening. Make sure before you leave, if you haven't done so, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe to the show, because we got like Clubber Lang said, I got a lot more for you. I got a lot more for you. I got a lot more for you. I got a lot
so much more. Hey, somebody put in the comment section, can you also teach us about like different formations and defenses and offenses? We got all that's coming, guys.
It's coming. It's coming.
And it's already ready.
We've been talking so much about UDFAs that we went a little long, but we got that. We got that piece.
Yeah, no, we still got some more. We want you to cover the rest next week, Dwayne. We still got one more from this week, and then
that's right,
guys.
That's right. We got
one. Finish them off next week.
We got three, 4 more people to put on there, and
then we're gonna get into the real intricate.
We get into the nitty and the gritty, the gristle and the fat and the meat of NFL football.
No, don't make it that big. It ain't even gonna be the fat. It's the ligaments. It's the veins,
cartilage,
the stuff that you don't pay attention to that make all the difference. They make all the difference. That's what it's gonna be, man. So when we finish these
part of the rotor and part of the tutor.
Yes. when we finish these when we finish these UDFAs next week, we got what do we have next on the agenda, Dwayne? What's it, the gap assignments? Or
we have gap assignments, and then we're gonna do linebacker alignment. So that way you'll learn the depth of where linebackers play, depending on what type of play is called and what type of defensive front. You'll learn that, and then we'll get into formation packages.
Yes, that's going to be an exciting one. So you can identify the formation a team is in. And sometimes when you know the formation they're in, now with this education, you can be like, then why in the heck are we in that formation? If they're in this, why are we in that? That makes no sense. You're going to understand which ones don't make sense at all where you're exposed. And how players like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they could be at the O-line and be like, wow, I can't believe they're in this defense. And they audible and change it. Yep. And we didn't make any adjustments because they just went into something that's going to murder what we're in. All that stuff you'll be able to identify. So y'all tune in on Thursday Night Details with Dwayne Wood, man. Thank you, Dwayne. I got to get out of here. It's baby time. Love y'all.
All
Hands up. Hit him with it, Dwayne.
Go Dolphins! Go Dolphins! Go Dolphins! Go Dolphins! Yeah, baby.
All right, man. Love y'all. We'll see y'all soon. Peace. We out.
All right.
Oh, man.